Welcome, everyone, to special education in middle school. This has been a hot topic inside of our Master IEP Coach network. And if Master IEP coaches are talking about it, that means that you're thinking about it too. If you have a child who is in elementary school, going into those middle school years, or even middle school right now, maybe getting ready for that transition to a junior high, high school, there's a lot of differences between elementary school and middle school when it comes to special education and what we need to be prepared for. So I would love, whether you're watching this live or you're watching the replay, I would love for you to tell me, where are you watching from and what is your current role at the IEP table? Most of you know that I don't just train parents to help advocate for their children. And I don't just work with teachers to help them write better IEPs. I work with parents, teachers, admins, therapists, anybody who sits at the IEP table and is ready to build an IEP for the real world. And to do that, we have to tackle tough topics like, what do we need to do in middle school to make sure that a child is getting an education that's going to prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living? There's a lot of nuances inside of the middle school environment that you have to know what to look for. So I'm going to give you 5 questions today. Go ahead and bust out that journal or open up that notes app on your phone and write down these 5 questions that you need to ask when you're preparing for that transition into middle school, or if you're already there. I mean, let's just face it, we've had a ridiculous last 12 months when it comes to school. Nothing has been normal when it comes to our school year and attendance and those things. So you might have experienced this first year or year and a half in middle school in a completely virtual environment or hybrid environment, where once we get back to a full-time schedule in middle school, things are going to be different. So let's go ahead and get started here of what are these different IEP questions that you need to ask. Now, at any time, you can hop over to IEPchecklist.com. I have a list of 12 questions that everybody needs to ask, no matter what grade level the child is in. So this is for parents and for teachers or anybody who sits at the IEP table. That's at IEPchecklist.com. But when we're talking about middle school, there's a few very specific things that you need to ask. And that starts with, what is the bullying policy? I know it's something that we don't want to talk about, that we hope it's not going to happen, but it is something that parents especially are worried about all the time. I mean, I don't know how your middle school experience was, but my middle school experience was definitely a lot of awkwardness. Friendships start to change. You no longer are friends with everyone. You start to figure out what a real friend is. And you also start to figure out who the bullies are in your grade. You know, you figure out, who do you want to talk to and who do you want to avoid? Sometimes that's really tough for our students in special education. And sometimes kids make bad decisions and they become the bully. And I'm all about, teaching friendship. I'm all about teaching the social skills. I'm all about teaching all the things to prevent bullying. I'm all about it. But the bottom line is, we need to know what the bullying policy is inside of this middle school that your child or your students are going to, because the bullying policy is not special education specific. It's school district specific. And there are certain things that may need to be addressed underneath the bullying policy that are outside of the IEP. This is something that you really need to be familiar with as a special needs parent. So if things start to happen, that there's another policy outside of the IEP that's going to help your child navigate the school safely. All right, I'm going to hop right over here to the comments real quick. I want to see who is here. We've got Emily that's here. We've got Suri here. We've got Jillian here. And I'm absolutely going to be answering questions after we get through this next question for middle school. So if you have a special education question, go ahead and put it down in the comments, and I'll hop over there right after we get to this next question that you have to ask, and that is, what is the bell schedule? We all know that middle school can be the first time introduction to lockers, or maybe it's the first time introduction to just switching classes. What is that going to look like for your child? If you're a teacher, what's that going to look like for your students? How are you going to make sure that that transition it goes smoothly, how much time is there supposed to be in between each of the classes, because that can make a huge difference. We don't like to be, rushed between our activities, right? As adults, we don't like it. Children don't like it either. However, school often forces this rushed pace in between classes. And again, for our students who have transition struggles, or for our students who have executive functioning struggles, or our students who struggle with being in loud, crowded places, especially in chaos and unstructured as we're going from point A to point B. What does this bell schedule look like? How often are the switching of classes going to happen? What does that process look like? We absolutely need to know that. Let's see. We have Emily who is here, and Emily is in Austin. She sits on both sides of the IEP table. I'm a resource teacher and will be writing my first transition IEPs for my 5th graders this year. I love that, Emily. So Emily, you're going to make sure to grab the checklist at iepchecklist.com. And then you're going to add these 5 questions into that main checklist for your kiddos that are going to be transitioning. We have Suri, who is watching from North Carolina. I'm currently a master IEP coach. I'm watching this one to help one of my clients with a transition meeting for middle school. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about what a master IEP coach is, what a master IEP coach does. Suri is here, continuing her learning because she is leading in special education and helping teams really build an IEP that makes sense for a child and paying attention to all the details that matter. Jillian asks, any suggestions on speech? Working on different things. Want to gear towards bullying for our daughter to work on speech. Can we put this in her IEP? You can. Now, how it goes in the IEP is going to be different for every child. But what I hear you saying, if I'm going to take your mom words and turn them into IEP words, I love to do this. I'm going to take your mom words and put them into IEP words. What you're looking for is self-advocacy skills. You want your daughter to have self-advocacy skills, and that might need to come through speech. It might need to come through the social worker. It might need to be through a goal. It might need to be just part of the supports, accommodations, modifications that enhance self-advocacy. There's all different ways to work on this. But if you want to work on the language when it comes to bullying, that's typically phrased as self-advocacy. Let's see. Shanika says, I'm happy to catch the live. I'll miss a lot of the training due to teaching in the classroom. Let me tell you what Shanika's talking about. She just signed up to become a master IEP coach, and this week is the first week of our trainings. So this is for all of you. And there was no enrollment to get here, right? You just signed up and said, yeah, give me the weekly IEP training. Shanika has taken this then to the next level, and she's decided to become a master IEP coach, just like Suri. Let's see. We have Gail, who says, what if your child on the spectrum becomes the bully? I've had that happen. I've been working in the field for 25 plus years. I'm a special needs sibling. And then I started working for parents and for teachers and building these IEPs. And that means that I've sat at probably thousands of IEP meetings and met so many families. And it's heartbreaking when your child becomes that bully. However, that's when we need to really address this through, one of the solutions, one of the most popular solutions that I've seen work, there's a lot of different ways to address it, would be through a functional behavior analysis. And then you'd come up with a very clear behavior intervention plan. We use the acronyms FBA and then a BIP, functional behavior analysis, and then a behavior intervention plan, because your child is having undesirable behaviors at school. We need to figure out the function of those behaviors. We need to figure out the data that goes around it, and then we can shape that situation and hopefully shape the behaviors into a different type of interaction. A lot of times children are bullying because they want more attention, and we need to figure out a positive way for that to happen. Let's see. Rebecca says, I'm a teacher and changed my lunch to catch this. Hello, Rebecca. If you have a question, Rebecca, make sure you go ahead and drop it while you're here on your lunch so I can get to that. Writing a transition plan in my class now. Love it. And Corey is here, and she has a son who is transitioning in middle school. All right. Well, with that, let's hop back into these questions. We've already had 2 questions asked. We've had, what's the bullying policy? What's the bell schedule? And now we have, what curriculum is used? There's a big shift between elementary school and middle school when it comes to what is taught, how is it taught, what are the materials, how is it delivered, what does this look like in middle school for your child who is used to elementary school, and things are just presented differently. Also, if they're switching schools for middle school, that school may have an entirely different set of curriculum. So let's just say the child was working in, we're not going to use any official names, they're working in the red book system for reading, and all of a sudden they go to middle school and now they're working in the blue book system. Do we have present levels for that? Do we know how we're going to present it? Do we have everything we need in this curriculum that's used in middle school to make that transition and gather that data from elementary school to middle school? There can be a huge difference between what the expectations are and the learning standards. They're supposed to go, pretty sequentially, but there's a big jump. At least that's what it feels like for a student and for a parent, especially. There's this big jump between this is how we did things in elementary school, this is how we do it in middle school, and we're using completely different materials. There are ways to make that transition smoother. There's ways to get pieces of that curriculum in middle school and start introducing it in elementary school, and there's a reason to do that. Think about it. If you have a whole new set of curriculum and a whole new IEP team, those are two big X factors that can really impede a child's momentum in their growth of learning. But if you take some of the pieces from middle school and start to integrate it into elementary school, then you have a team that knows the child, we hope. Again, it's been kind of a bizarre school year, but we have the elementary team that knows the child, and they're going to start working on getting some of that present level of performance data. Really starting to work on making sure this transition, not just when it comes to the physical building, but when it comes to the academics, is going to go as smoothly as possible. Let's see. We have Caitlin who's here. She says, I'm worried for my student who uses sign language. I'm worried as her peers age, they will lose interest and patience in trying to communicate with her. Caitlin, one of the things, this is actually going to be one of the last questions. I'm going to have to jump ahead. We're going to talk about clubs, and that's a way to build peer support. Is there something that you can do at the middle school level now to set up maybe a sign language club, or to make sure that some of her peers now are going to be in some of her classes the next year, so it doesn't seem like something new and all new friendships? And yes, those peers that are growing up, sometimes they're going to lose interest. They're not going to want to slow down and take the time to communicate in a different way. But you know what? They're not her people. So your student who uses sign language is going to need some self-advocacy and some real understanding of what friendships are, so she can find the people who accept her for who she is and want to communicate with her and meet her where she's at. It's an unfortunate, tough lesson at a young age that we have to teach it that way, right? That we have to teach it in a way of like, those are not your people, and your real friends are going to meet you where you're at. That's a hard thing for us as an adult, but that's also just human behavior. But if we're forward thinking about it, it becomes an experience that's going to make her stronger in finding that peer group that's going to work for her. Let's see. Rebecca says, what about in a therapeutic day school that uses individual curriculum? Should specific materials be from the district or the school? So my opinion on that, and in my experience, is that the therapeutic day school has much more personalized, individualized materials. They also have a higher level of resources, and very rarely are we ever depending on the home school district to provide materials, because if those materials worked for the student, they most likely would not be in that therapeutic day school. That being said, I also want to make sure that the therapeutic day school is using materials and has expectations that are very appropriate. And in our IEP world, we would use the word ambitious, that they're ambitious IEP goals, and that we're not having low expectations and everything modified so much that the momentum of learning slows down as the child gets older. And that happens a lot. I will tell you, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm a fan of therapeutic day schools in the right situation. My brother, who's 43 with Down syndrome, he went to a therapeutic day school. The reason was the public school couldn't support him, and he had already lost so much time learning that he needed specialized instruction 100% of the time in a specialized environment. The school district materials were of no use to him. And it worked out to be a beautiful situation. So, Rebecca, you always use your best judgment, but typically we're not looking to the school district to provide that. We have, my middle school experience has been very traumatic. He will transition to the high school next year, and I'm terrified he won't be able to maneuver. I'm thinking of leaving my job and homeschooling. All right, to all my parents who are watching right now, who has felt this way? Let's let this mama know that she is not alone. Okay, you are not alone in thinking about leaving your job and homeschooling. However, this scary part of transitioning is partial special needs, but it's also mom life. Let me encourage you that some of this is very typical. I'm speaking to you from one mom to another. I am in the middle of transitioning my daughters from high school into the real world, and it is scary as a mom. And then I'm also a special needs sibling. My daughter has some complex medical issues from the past. I mean, I can see it from all different sides of things, and it's absolutely terrifying. Okay, but what can we learn from this middle school experience that could help this high school experience be so much better? In fact, I have a master IEP coach. You know, your name looks familiar. Can you tell me, are you a master IEP coach? Have you signed up for the current master IEP coach mentorship? Because we've got a transition guru in our master IEP coach leadership team. Her name is Lisa, and she's 100% focused on those ages 14 to 22 to make sure that children are accessing their education and getting ready for those transition years. So I'd love to know if you're in the Master IEP Coach mentorship. If not, you can hop over to masteriepcoach.com and get those next steps. All right. Big question here. Big question. What training is the staff going to need to support the child? What training is the staff going to need to implement the IEP? What training are they going to need on assistive technology? For my teacher who just said she's concerned about her student who uses sign language, what training does the staff need in sign language to support that student in all environments, not just her classroom, the hallway, the lunchroom, the library, the art room, the gym? What training? What training does the staff need in using a multisensory approach to reading if that's something that's listed in your child or student's IEP? What training does the staff need? Guys, there's a section in the IEP that is so underutilized. It talks about what training does the staff need, and you can also put parent training in that section, meaning that the parent needs training on something to support a child in reaching an IEP goal. It absolutely can be put into the IEP. So you have to ask before the crisis happens of what needs to happen now to make sure the staff is trained. Do they need training on a behavioral intervention plan? Do they need training on how to implement the supports and accommodations? Do they need training on the specific curriculum? Training on the technology? There's a lot of things that get comfortable in elementary school, and we forget how much work we're doing as we move forward towards middle school. So we need to make sure we're documenting what does the staff need. Here's our final question for today, but I've got something for you. So don't leave after this final question. Don't do it. I got something for you. So what clubs are available? There's everything from video game clubs to photography to yearbook. There's board games. There's horticulture. There's all different clubs that can be coming about depending on your school district. It's important for you to know that your child, your students need access and supports. If it is a school-sponsored club, so I'm not talking like Girl Scouts, okay? That's not school-sponsored. If it is a school-sponsored club, we can use the IEP to help your child access clubs. That's where we support your child in these peer interactions. It's where we make sure that they're getting inclusive experiences throughout their entire school day. Inclusion is not about taking a child who learns differently and plopping them into a regular education classroom for 20 minutes of a science lesson. Inclusion is an experience. We can do that quite often through clubs. So I told you guys that I have something for you. Number one, keep posting questions below. I'm going to go check the comments. Number two, I want you to know that we are in our first week of our Master IEP Coach Mentorship. You guys saw Suri here. You saw Shanika here, and they are Master IEP coaches. Shanika's on her way to become a Master IEP coach. Suri is a Master IEP coach. Master IEP coaches are the idea bringers, solution finders, and team builders at the IEP table. They support and collaborate out in their community. This is Angela West Brown. She collaborates with Georgia State University on programs. We have Alex, who works on inclusion for twice exceptional students. We have Nicole, who loves to collaborate at a whole new level in the toughest of situations when it comes to IEPs. In fact, she's had a special ed director say, like, how do we get you to support more parents in our district? Because we've never seen somebody be able to really get through the sticky conversations and come up with creative solutions. And this is Lisa, and Lisa has been a Master IEP coach for quite a while, and she has been working with families who in the past couldn't get what they needed. Who's ever felt like that in special education, whether you're a teacher or you're a parent, that you just can't get what you need? And Lisa has been there before with clients that she was serving before the Master IEP Coach Mentorship. And now that she is a Master IEP Coach, she's able to achieve so much more. So we have here, Emily says, I'm in it too. And so far it's fantastic. I've already done quite a few of the lessons and I'm learning so much more. Yes, Emily. So yes, welcome to our Master IEP Coach community. For those that are considering, you're like, what is this? Hop over to masteriepcoach.com. The other thing that I'm going to do is, because we're in this first week, we're going to leave enrollment open just for a couple of stragglers. It's okay. Maybe you didn't know that we were starting. So I just put the enrollment link below, but I will tell you it's not going to be up for very long. We started yesterday, so you need to jump in. So I put that in there for you. But Master IEP coaches are working on mastering the IEP process for themselves, and they learn how to help other people. If you've ever thought, I want to be that expert in my community, get paid for what I do. Maybe you want to be a speaker. Maybe you want to be a tutor. Maybe you want to work together with your local school district. Maybe you're a teacher who wants to mentor other teachers. Maybe you're a parent who wants to help other parents so they never have to feel like you have felt. Rebecca says, this week's lessons have sparked so much in my head. I'm so excited, Rebecca. So that's the whole point of the Master IEP Coach Mentorship. It's to get you to think about it differently. And then we also have Sandy here who says, this is a great program. So thanks, guys, for being here. I love that. Again, for those of you that are curious, go to the enrollment link that's in the comments or hop over to masteriepcoach.com. You'll get everything that you need. And don't forget, when it comes to your middle school transition and what's happening, you need to ask different IEP questions for this middle school transition to help a child be successful in navigating this new school, the new curriculum, the new peers. And then we also can use the IEP to support the staff and the family through all of these transitions also. I want to thank you guys for being here today. Remember, keep on dropping those questions below. I'll be checking the comments. And I truly hope to see you inside of the Master IEP Coach Mentorship.